All right, y'all. It's the time of the day that you've been waiting for. It is the one show on air that will take you from the boardroom to the bedroom, from politics to the pulpit, and everything in between with your favorite friends. You are about to join the crew for Fresh Fire as we do what we do all together. Tune in.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the crew, formerly the Pastor Study. And look, last week was so good. We back in the man cave one more time.
We are.
And this is no disrespect to the ladies. The ladies are fantastic, but every now and again we got to do some conversations and talk about some things that sometimes the ladies aren't always here. So shout out to Marcia, shout out to Alvian, who's not with us today. But we here. We got Tauntaun is in the house on his day job, he Commonwealth attorney. But now you just Tauntaun.
I'm just Tom right now.
What's up, man?
Chilling. I got my hoodie on and everything.
No, man, you been shanking people, man. You know,
They need to be shanked. If people get shanked more often, they be all right.
Now, next time you come with a hoodie that say I was shanky, right? You working on t-shirts, right?
I already got the t-shirt. Somebody
you need
gave me that. They gifted that to me.
Somebody need to bless you with a hoodie.
Yeah, with a hoodie
and a hat
that said I'll shank you.
Yeah. Put that out there for the listeners.
Yeah. And put up that I'll shank you hard. Hard to the white meat.
Boy, you was crazy.
I'm just saying, just to the white meat. Yeah.
Are you sure you're a Commonwealth attorney, man?
I believe in accountability, bro.
I
don't mess with nobody, but when they come for you, you got to make sure they feel that walk. Okay.
I see.
Womp.
And we got Ray back, man.
Little Ray.
Ray in the house, man.
I'm back in the building, as the kids say.
On the day job, he's the bishop.
Bishop.
What's up, Ray? Bishop. What's up, Bishop?
Oh man, I'm good. It's just good to be with y'all. Listen, man, I've been very fortunate and blessed to have access to opportunity in my life, and so, I had my 2 weeks of residency at Regent. I'm a part of this hybrid program between Regent and Bangor University, working on a second PhD. And
nice.
I don't know why in the world I consented to that, but I'm in it. I'm doing it, and it's been good so far.
Good. You're gonna be a doctor.
So we got Alvin as doctor. We got Ray gonna be doctor. Bishop. You and me the same. We just got a couple of degrees, 2-3 degrees. How many you got?
I got a doctor.
I got a
juris
doctor.
I got a juris doctor.
He's juris doctor.
So you got 3 degrees?
No, I got 2.
You got 2.
I got what I needed, and then I got out.
I ain't mad.
Okay, I got what I needed,
mad.
And then I got out.
And got from around.
Now you trying to go back to school at all?
Absolutely not.
I'm with you, man.
I am done. I finished schooling before I turned 25, and I said that was it.
Right.
That was it for you?
That was it.
But I do like academia setting, though, because there's something about being around intelligent people, man, that I do like.
I could be around intelligent people and not be at school.
Right.
Okay.
But you could be a professor.
School don't mean you intelligent.
Yeah, come on. School.
School don't mean you intelligent.
Let me tell you something. There's some dumb people who are attorneys.
Yeah.
Straight dumb. I don't even know how they dumb as a rock. I don't even know how they
I don't even want to talk about clergy. That's a whole other conversation.
You know good well in our profession. They go pay $1.99 and get their license off the wall somewhere and make us all look crazy.
Lord.
Listen.
There's some doctors I would not go to. I'm just saying, I won't go to them.
Hello?
Yeah.
They don't even practice their own medicine, do they?
Don't practice their own medicine. They won't even see themselves if they get sick.
Well, look, we about to go to break. Y'all know how we roll on the show. Listen, we need y'all to make sure you comment, right? Go to our Facebook page, our YouTube page. Y'all see how we do. And this the Man Cave too. This show gonna be off the chain today. Drop comments. Let us know what you think. I know you might be listening on WHOV. That's cool too. Check out the podcast. Check it out on YouTube, Facebook. Drop a comment. Let us know what you think. We're gonna take a break. Come back. Got another fire show for you here on WHOV and YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and all the other stuff we got going on. Welcome back to the crew, WHOV, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, podcast. Before we go any further, we got to give a big shout out to our producer extraordinaire, Jason Covington. Jada hooked up the Man Cave. He got us looking good, got us producing us right. I want to say thank you to Jay. You're doing a great job, man. We appreciate you. Look, fellas, we got to talk, man. We got to talk. You know, last week we talked about chivalry, man. And, you know, Tom, you brought it up about the girl that proposed to the guy, got down on one knee.
That's what she did.
But, you know, before we were the crew, we were the pastor study.
We were.
Right. And I think every now and again, we got to take it back to the roots and have some real talk, spiritual conversation.
We got to go to church.
Man, listen, man.
We got to go to church.
So I just want to have a conversation.
Board meeting before the service. That's where we got to go.
We talked about the men last week too, and gender roles and what's going on. But I want to talk about today. How come men don't go to church? I want to talk about the state of
you sure
men.
You want to talk about that?
I want to talk about it, man.
Okay.
We need to have this conversation about the men and church. And listen, Ray, I know that you know in most black churches they're predominantly
90% female.
Predominantly women, right? And COVID did not help at all.
None. Yeah.
And I'm getting calls from wives and people like, Pastor, you know, I want to come back, but I don't want to come back by myself. I want my husband to come with me, and it's just been a tug of war trying. What's going on with the brothers? And this isn't just recent. This has been going on for a minute.
No, this is the history of the church.
So we all men of faith here, men of the cloth. Tom, you on outside for this show, man? Because, you know, you be bashing us sometimes, man.
We're going to get bashed.
You going to get bashed. So I'm just going to...
I mean, whose side you on today?
I'm ready to go to receive. I received my
side
bashing.
you on?
Whose side are you? The I'm just saying, you going to get bashed. just you going to get bashed. So just
Put your
know.
faith cloth on today, Tom.
My faith cloth stay on.
Let's go be the prophet today.
You going to get there. You going to get bashed, bro. You going to get bashed.
No, we need to have an honest conversation. Let's do it.
So let's have
do
it. Tom, I want to start with you, man. What's your assessment of men in church, and why don't we see more men engaged in church?
So let's just go ahead on and say this. If you took the average male who never goes to church, may have gone to church before, but now they just do not go and don't want to go ever, and you tell that young man or that older man, hey, I got $1 million that's going to be in this pew at this section of the pew with your name on it if you come. What you think he going to do?
You show up.
He's going to show up. Why is he going to show up?
For the money.
Because he's showing up for something that he wants. Yeah. He's showing up with an expectation that he's going to get something that's going to enhance or improve the quality of his life. And so and this is generally speaking, because you got churches that preach the word on a regular basis, and people may not go as well. But the reality of it is you got people who have church hurts or have been to churches that they felt they didn't get anything out of it. And because they didn't get anything out of it, it's like, why waste my time? I only have some of them one day out of the week that they can particularly rest, because Saturday is a honeydew day for the most part, or you got to run errands to do whatever. So outside of going to church on Sunday, people rest. And so for them, it's like, why mess up my one day I could chill and go and listen to somebody holler and give me no word. All they give me is their opinion. And then they living like a hoe. So why in the world would I go?
There it is.
He done went in already, right?
There it is.
Come on, because here's the thing. You may think that, you doing that to Sister Sally over there on Monday, but everybody know, because Sister Sally done told somebody.
Hello.
And so everybody already know what you're doing.
But what you're describing is the product. Okay, I'm not going because the product isn't what I want it to be.
I'm not going because I don't feel my life is being enhanced. The quality of my life is being enhanced, or will be. I don't have an expectation.
So what makes it different then for men versus women? Because women go, even if the product isn't what necessarily they may want it to be or hope it will be, they still go.
Yeah, they do go.
So what's the difference?
Well, I think for women, I think they are more hopeful. And I think many times their faith tends to be stronger than that of a lot of men. Because if you look at women and men in different households, many times it's the woman that has a stronger faith than the men do. And if her faith is stronger, then she's going to have a greater hope and expectation to receive something that is going to enhance the quality of her life spiritually and then overall. But if he is not the spiritual head of that house, and she's the spiritual head of that house, then he's gonna lag.
Now you talked about last week, man.
Yeah,
I'm just talking about roles from last week.
I'm just saying, because if you both of us, I mean all of y'all, we can name a whole bunch of households where, for the most part, the woman is the spiritual head of that household and not the man. And so if that's the case, she is going to have a faith and a hope that she's going to get something out of that service versus him.
Mm-hmm.
But men go to restaurants.
Yeah, but you can't compare restaurants with church, because here's the reality of it is, you got to always eat. But if your spiritual setting is not mature, where you think that you need spiritual food to eat, guess what? You starve to death. And if you starve to death spiritually, you're going to die spiritually.
Correct.
But you don't see that immediately because the consequence is not always immediate.
Yeah, there you
but
go.
the consequence is always immediate if you don't eat. You will starve to death.
Now, Tom, you just hold on, because last week, man, you just came on this show last week and talked about the fact that we couldn't take God out of it, right? That you had to have God in it. That's the reason why we got so much dysfunction. So to say that you can't see it, you can see it. We do see the impact of a lack of spirituality in our community. We see that now.
We see it, but you're talking about the individual
man. Yeah.
I'm talking about the individual person who is not going. They may not see it. And then, come on, let's give you a little Bible. The Bible says that if one of the spouses, they are unsaved, the other one sanctifies.
Right.
The other one.
7.
So guess what? He is living off the mercy and the grace of that woman going to church and living the lifestyle of holiness, because the Bible says they're one, and she sanctifies him because of her relationship with Christ.
As he goes and watches football.
As he goes and watches
football. And as he goes and plays golf. So Ray, help us, man. What I mean, listen, we in this together, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is it?
I think all of what Tom is saying is absolutely correct. And I think it is well, let me start here. Men don't respond until they feel it. And where it's gotta hit them in areas of their lives to where now they realize, I need God. And a lot of times there is not the communication that creates the sense of urgency within men so that they understand their lack of spirituality is causing them to die daily at a rate where it's not necessarily seen in their temporal life. So let a crisis hit the house. Then when a crisis hits the house, he loses his job, something happens to one of his children, or God forbid a diagnosis takes place with his wife. Then all of a sudden now there's that sense of urgency, and that brother is going to be at the altar. That's just the reality of what it is. And I don't think it's just germane to men. I think that's human nature. Human nature doesn't respond until there's a crisis that forces them to have to respond. And the way that the times are right now, just for me, if I am a man, but for men who are trying to lead families in this culture, you can't do it without God. Because you got all types of not heaven going on in your house with your children. You got all kind of stuff going on your job. People are driving around half high every day.
God knows that's true.
You need God. And so the urgency has not been there yet for men, for them to make the association that my solution out of the climate of my house, the climate that's going on around me, the issues with my money, God has an answer for that. Now, on the other side of that, I think one of my young dudes said this to me. We were having a discussion in our men's meeting. And he said, Pastor, you have to address what's going on culturally around us, because it is not that men are not gravitating to the church or gravitating to spirituality, I should say. They are gravitating to what is appealing to them and what is psychologically drawing them in. So he was talking about the Hebrew Israelites. And so he began to talk about that. And I said, well, let me just put the cards on the table with that. I said to him, a lot of these brothers who are not saved are drawn to that movement because of the black consciousness feel and inference of it, because they will legitimize the idea that you can have multiple women. So I think what has to happen is we have to start talking the language of the times culturally and communicating to men about where the real issues are. No, God ain't gonna let you have 10 women. He gonna let you have one because of the God that we serve. And here's the part we don't do. We don't talk about the ramifications of why God has said what he has said to us. See, people don't respond to God until they realize they need him. And we have to create a climate and an environment for people to recognize they need God. That's one. Two is that the reality is, like I said before, 80 to 90%, George Barner's statistics, women are in church. Sometimes women are more spiritual than men. They have more of a sensitive response than we do. But I think it's incumbent upon us, and it's a hard place for us to be in, that we have to strategically create environments where men see themselves when they come to church. Because a lot of times my young dude said to me, he was like, sometimes I walk in here, whole worship team, women. The greeters on the door, women. The ushers on the door, women. On the other side, we say, well, if the men were here, we could put them in places so that they could be seen. So it's a duality on that side. We have to find a way, and men are visual. So we have to find a way for men to see themselves, one, when they come, two, create the thirst for them with us in terms of, dude, if you don't get in here and get this word and learn this, your daughter is going to keep fooling around with some tendencies. Your son is going to keep getting high. Your wife may start stepping out on you if you don't get centered with God. You start talking like that, that get that joker attention.
But I must say this. The thing is, it comes back down to a lot of people are walking around, like we talked about traumas last week, a lot of people are walking around with church hurts because they have tried a church, a local assembly, and unfortunately their experience was not good. Now, whether it's their fault, the pastor's fault, some member fault, don't matter. People hold on to those things and they tend to church hop, and they may go here for a moment and then somebody offend them over there and then they'll go
somewhere else
and go somewhere else. But the thing is, they take
his hat about to go backwards. I'm just telling you now, his hat about to go backwards.
They take those church hurts with them. And so, unfortunately, they'll see you through the lens of the hurt of the past pastor or the past church member.
Yeah, it is true.
Or whomever else that did whatever.
I'm just telling you, the hat is about to go backwards. I'm just trying to tell you. Because them jokers don't stop going to Walmart or going to the food line or going to the game. They don't stop doing that.
Don't shoot the messenger. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm just
saying what it is.
I'm just telling you what some of the problems are.
Okay. But haven't women been hurt in church too?
Yeah, but
they still show up.
But when you are more spiritually mature, you're able to navigate through that better.
Yeah. Okay. Here's what I got. I got some things. I got three.
Well, go on.
I got three. Y'all number one, I think church is hard for men because of the notion of surrendering to something else.
Yeah, that's facts.
Because men are not taught that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Women are taught or hear that they have to submit. Right? Because we go to Ephesians 5:25.
Right.
But what we don't do is go a little bit up
to verse 26 or 23.
5:22. Yes, 22. It's a little bit higher where it says that all of us should submit to one another in the fear of God. Right? So I think men struggle with surrendering because in the streets, that's a sign of weakness.
Right.
Right. I ain't acknowledging somebody else is better than me, or I gotta give in to somebody else, and then I bring part of that mindset into church. That's one thing that I think. So let me ask you, as a man, help somebody that's listening, man. Why did you decide to surrender your life, man? Because a lot of brothers are, man, I can't do that, man. I haven't been taught that.
I
don't
ain't built
know what
that way.
Right.
Because
Why did you lay down your life, Tom?
because my life was unfulfilled. I had literally just graduated from law school. I was 25 years old, and I was not happy. And it had nothing to do with the fact that, I mean, I wasn't depressed or anything like that. It had nothing to do with my outlook on life, because I had a great outlook on life. I was about to take the bar and all kind of stuff. Everything was looking rosy, but there was a sense of lack. I knew I was lacking something. And what it was is, here's the other piece. I grew up in the church. That's all I've known. And so I knew God was drawing me. He was drawing me, and I was fighting. I was resisting because I wanted to go and do my own thing. And I had gotten to the point where I just didn't want to fight anymore. I knew what it was. So it was, for me, it wasn't hard for me to submit, because I knew that God was trying to draw me in, and I just couldn't deny it anymore. And I just got to the point where I said, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and surrender. And when I surrendered, I went completely in, never went back. I just went, because that was the other thing too. I had seen hypocrisy in the church growing up. And what I didn't want to do is be in and out, compromise. No, I didn't want to do any of that. Yeah. So I felt like, let me get it all out of my system, whatever I'm going to do. And then I'm just keeping it real. Let me get it all out of my system. And so if I can, when I get in, I'm coming in and I'm all the way in. But I'm going to tell you what I did struggle with. And this, I guarantee you, is a problem, particularly with millennials, because they're growing up in the same situation I grew up in. And that's not having a father. I did not know, and I struggled with trying to relate to a heavenly father when I did not have a natural father. Right. That I could understand how to be fathered. So I didn't know how to be fathered. I didn't know about how he could really provide with me when I had never seen it in the natural. And I didn't know how he could protect me when I didn't see that in the natural. See, I had to protect myself. I had to fight for myself. And so that's one of the struggles, even to this, I ain't gonna tell my age, but this is the struggle I have even to this day, fighting. Because I fight because that shows a lack of trusting God to fight the battle for me. Tom. So that's why I shame people. I shame people because I'm keeping it real. I'm keeping it real.
It's the man cave, bro.
It's the man cave. I shame people because I'm like, you ain't gonna punk me. And instead of me giving it to God and say, God, take care of that and turn the other cheek. No, I ain't gonna turn no other cheek. I'm gonna pimp smack you if you come my way. So don't come my way.
But that's the point I'm making here, Tom. Right. See, because when you're raised like that, the thought is I'm not giving up my life because this is mine, right? I'm gonna fight for my life, right? So Ray, let me ask you, man. Yeah. Like, take Bishop out of all this, man. I believe there's some men that need to hear this, man, today, right? Like, why did you decide to surrender? Because it's not in our playbook, our man code playbook, to surrender to anybody else, man.
My relationship with God began early on because I was called to the Lord as a 9-year-old. So I've had supernatural experiences and exposures to the spiritual realm where it was clear that you are going to be who you are. At 9, I knew I would be who I am today. So, but I fought and wrestled against that. The honesty and the truth of it is I had gotten to a place where I could not make sense of my own reality. And I recognized the only way that this reality is going to make sense is I have to have God. Yeah. So through my teen years, I'm trying to be something I'm not. I'm trying to be Mr. Hip Hop. I'm trying to be, our peer group, we used to call me Preacher's Kid. But I'm trying to be at the club like everybody else, and I'm trying to hang like everybody else.
And you a PK.
And I'm a PK. I'm trying to drink like everybody else. I'm trying to fornicate like everybody else. I'm trying to run the street like everybody else. You get to a place where, like he said, it's unfulfilling. The other side of that coin is life doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
So when I got to that place that life doesn't make sense, put the bishop's side and the call of God and all that aside, I'm just a human being that's trying to figure out, how do I live every day?
Right.
And when I got there, the breaking happened. And when that breaking happened, I tell this testimony all the time. It wasn't until I was 19 years old. I was at Virginia Union. I was on the corner of Chamberlain Avenue and Lombardy. I was walking back to my dorm, coming back. Now, this is me dating myself. Coming back from Ivory's nightclub.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I remember that.
You got to remember Ivory's.
I remember that.
I'm coming back from Ivory's. I'm stumbling back to my dorm, and I'm drunk. And I'm telling you, I can't make it, Tom. So I'm on the corner of Chamberlain and Boulevard, I should say.
You lucky they didn't get you.
Yeah, because you know that's a rough part.
Yeah,
that's a rough part right there.
I agree. Say, from the hood, you easy picking.
Easy. Easy. And here's let me just help somebody understand. This is the genius and the loving nature and the hand of God. I can't make it, so I lean up against a night pole. And I slide down to my feet, and all of a sudden a voice says to me, have you had enough yet?
Sheesh.
I'm 19. Have you had enough yet? I'm looking around trying to figure out who is talking to me. In 30 seconds, I sobered up quickly, and I said, yes, Lord. And I stood up and soberly walked back. Now, let me just help people understand. I was drunk off Mad Dog 2020.
Oh yeah, boy.
That's that gasoline
yes,
right
sir.
there.
That's hood drink. That's
Yes,
hood
sir.
drink.
That's hood drink right there. Yeah, 23rd Street, 1100 block.
Yeah, boy.
That's hood drink.
I'm on that sauce right there, and I sobered up instantly because the Lord came and got me to make sense of my reality. Now, how about this on the other side of the testimony? Unbeknownst to me, my preaching pastor father and two of his deacons were in Richmond for a conference and came to the dorm the next day.
Sheesh.
So when I tell you I couldn't make sense, but the Lord was like, enough is enough. You're going to be who I called you to be.
Yeah, that's good, man.
Yeah.
My story, and this surrendering part, because I think a lot of men fight it.
Yeah,
which is why we struggle with church.
We fight it, yeah.
Tom, similar to yours. I grew up in church. But I was, it's funny, man. I'm an only child, so growing up, my mother was Episcopal.
Yeah.
And my dad was Baptist. Mm-hmm. They told me, you can go to church, just pick one. So I go with my mom. Sole reason, honestly, church was 55 minutes. Mm-hmm. Right? We out.
He got one closing.
Yeah, listen, man, we out. So, but growing up, man, played basketball. So Ray, had a great life, only child, spoiled, didn't want for nothing. But like you, when I was in college, I just felt like there was just something missing, man. I used to describe it like a donut. Like I had all the things around, but that centerpiece, right?
Yeah.
There was a void.
Yeah.
Right? So for me, I distinctly remember it was July 5th, 1993. I'm sitting in my room at my mom and dad's house. I just graduated undergrad. Bible on the bed, tears running down my eyes, and I said, Lord, I can't do this no more.
Look at here.
I can't do it no more.
Look at here.
Exact words.
I'm tired.
Exact words.
You feel like you're running.
You're tired.
You feel like you're trying to, and then you catch something, and as soon as you get it, you think that's it, and then that ain't it, and then you're just tired of chasing. Right. And that night I gave my life to the Lord. I surrendered. And, for me, yeah, it was the fornication. But my mouth.
I remember that, Kevin Swan.
My mouth. Man. Making up cuss words, Tom. Dude. Tom. I used to make them up.
I remember that, Kevin Swan.
Playing ball, talk trash.
Yeah, I remember that, Kevin
Cussing
Swan.
people out on the court, man. Listen, man.
Very similar.
Listen.
Very similar.
And I'm telling you, the night I gave my life to the Lord, one of the first things that the Lord did, he broke that.
Yeah.
Just like that. Right? took away that desire to even want to say those things.
Yeah,
and so surrendering is.
I don't know if he took away the desire.
You catch him in the right situation on the right
situation, right? Because look, you don't forget how to do that.
Sanctification is still a work.
It's
still a work, Todd. It's still a work.
Okay, all right. I'm just saying. Okay, I don't know if he took
It's
away
the
the
man
desire.
cave. That's how we get down in the cave.
I use King James. That's what I'm saying.
I'm just trying to say. Don't hate the
There's the words of King James.
Don't hate the
know,
message.
hell in King James. Todd. I just want you to
It's in
know.
the Bible.
It's in the
Hey, it's in the Bible. It's in the Bible.
Don't hate the message. See, I grew up Kojic, so don't hate the message.
Well, then you know King James then.
I know King James. Yeah.
But the point is that there's some brothers. So surrendering is always the hardest step.
Yes.
But if you can get past that first step, I think, to your point, women ain't got to be more spiritual than the men if men are just willing to accept that, right?
Or more submissive than men.
But he draws.
But that don't mean you accept it, Ton. Like, how long did it take for him to draw you, right?
He was, but see, I got saved as a teenager. I got saved when I was 12, and I backslid very shortly thereafter because no one taught me how to be discipled.
Right.
As you know, they weren't discipling children back then.
Right.
They would just put you in Sunday school, and that was it. And they call it discipleship, but it really wasn't.
Right.
And so I, backslid, and it wasn't until I graduated from law school, studying for the bar, and I gave my life because I said, like you, Lord, I'm with tears in my mind. I'm tired.
I'm just tired.
That's just the word. I mean, everything you were saying was exactly.
I'm just tired.
I'm tired because I knew he was drawing me. It was a void, and I knew it was him, and I was just tired.
And so that brings me to the second point, right? Why I don't think men come to church. You just said it. I think you said it too early about men don't see their place, right? And maybe the worship and the experience of church feels to a lot of men is feminine.
Right.
Because we don't worship like that.
Right.
Or we don't praise like that.
Right.
And maybe men process a little bit differently. So let's talk about our worship now.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Sure.
Like,
I love that.
How did you get to the place where you became okay with worshiping God in church? Because a lot of men struggle with that.
So that was easy, actually, because I grew up in a Pentecostal church.
Right.
Yes,
So in a Pentecostal church, we are very passionate about our worship.
Yeah.
And but what I learned though when I started going to Calvary, the church I'm at now, I learned the difference between praise and worship.
Yes, sir.
Because in the Pentecostal church, growing up, they were real big on praise, but they weren't really big on worship.
Right.
And what I mean by that is they would dance and they would shout and they would yell and scream, but to enter in where you are, you're bowing your will and you are submitting your heart to Him and your life, because worship is a lifestyle. Worship is just not a lifting of the hands and saying, Lord, I love you. It's a lifestyle. And so you don't come to church on Sunday to worship. You should be worshiping Him Monday through Sunday.
Absolutely.
And so those who worship Monday through Sunday, when you get to church on Sunday, it's easy because all you're doing is just repeating what you've been doing all week long. And so for me, even as a backslidden slider, I would listen to worship music. That would be the last thing I listened to going to sleep. I would listen to it because he was drawing me as a teenager. So I would listen. So it was nothing for me to literally, as a teenager, have tears in my eyes just listening to work, even in a backslidden condition. Because he said, I'm married to the backslider.
Talk right there.
Yes, sir.
And so he was married to me. I belonged. I was already marked. And so by the time I got back in the fold as a believer and getting in church, I was excited to be a believer again. I was excited just to be in relationship with Him. So it was nothing for me. Like when I get in the presence of God, I cry. That's me. That's how I respond. I mean, it's silent tears. I can't help it. And I've been, and it's funny you mentioned this. It's times where I'm mindful or cognizant of the fact that I'm crying, and I try to wipe the face real fast.
Man.
Yeah, I try. I do. I try to wipe real quick. Try to get myself together, but I can't help it because I am so grateful just that he loves me.
When you realize how good he is.
And how good he's been despite my trifling self.
Man,
and so I'm just
and that you are trifling. I just want people to know.
whatever. You call me whatever you want to. He called me his son.
You trifling.
So
you are trifling.
He called me his son. So that's all I care about because my name is in the book.
I just want you to know.
That's all I'm saying. But because I recognize he loves me.
Yeah, man.
It's so easy for me to lift up my hands and tune everybody else out because I could care less what you think.
But that's the point I want to ask you, Ray.
Yeah,
like, because men will give it up at a game.
Yeah.
Men will give it up at home when they're watching TV, in the stadium, at the concert, in the public setting. But when we come to church, it's almost as if like
you got to get stoic.
You feel like you a fish out of water,
what
right?
What helped me was seeing. I'm gonna call some names of men that mentored me in this area. So I agree with them. First of all, let me say everything Tom said about worship and the Pentecostal church is absolutely true. I grew up that same way, and so. And helping people to understand that worship is a lifestyle that happens Monday through Saturday outside of the Sunday experience. It's reflected when you lift your hands and the posture of your heart. That's the most important thing about that. But when I saw men like a Kevin Gould, who went to UVA, played football, a Derek Williamson, that was another athlete that was a mentor of mine. When I saw a Larry Gould, his brother, when I saw them in church with their hands lifted up, and then they were real everyday men outside of church.
That's free.
That right there is what brings the transition. So let me say to the brothers that are going to watch this and see this, and that are watching us right now, and those that are catching on the replay, it is so important for you to model to the next generation how important it is for us, let me use this word, to be tender before the Lord. Like Anton when he cries. Me, I done got to the place now where, well, I use you as an example. When I saw you, we were young ministers. We were young in our 20s back then. Kevin Swan, in terms of his dynamic of who he is as a person, when he was in the world, he's the exact same, but he's in the church, he's the exact same. He don't care what you think. Mm-hmm. So for him, when he worshiped God, he break protocol and go straight to the altar, and ain't nobody else there. And it's him, and it could be thousands of people around him. And so I started to do the same kind of stuff in my early 20s when I was ministering, but it was the men who showed me how to worship God, that showed me how to connect with God, that showed me, now this may sound a little crazy, but you don't have to be soft and whack to be a man that's a Christian that loves God. First time I ever saw a preacher preach in a sweatsuit, I said, oh, I'm free now. I can preach in a sweatsuit and sneakers. I'll never forget it like it was yesterday. We preached together at Harvest Fest. God bless his soul. My man Mike Green gone on to be with the Lord. And we preached at Doris Miller. And when nobody had no suits on, we were in sneakers, jeans, sweatsuits, and we were everyday brothers, but we love Jesus. Yeah. I think that is so important today for men to do that. For the next generation of young boys following behind us.
I agree.
And Bishop used to, when I was young in the Lord, Bishop Courtney McBath would call the men to the altar.
Yeah.
And have us worship because he wanted to kind of break that whole stronghold of fearing how you look, or fearing what others may think. You know, and it was men up in there, and they were in there worshiping, crying before the Lord, weeping. And just weeping and just loving God, and just it comes back to a gratitude when you for real grateful that He brought you out the mess that you've been in.
Look here, man.
You gonna forget about everybody else and what they may think about you in your worship, and you gonna be like, forget y'all, I'm gonna get mine in because I know without Him I should be in jail, I should be homeless, I should be doped up, I should be a whole lot of stuff. And then growing up the way I grew up, my brother and I we escaped. We literally escaped.
You about to make me break out into a praise right now.
Come on, we
man.
escaped.
The babies I should have had that I didn't have
we
because God.
Escaped.
Look at here. That part right there.
That part. Yeah, we escaped, bro.
Yeah.
You know, we look back on our lives and the things that, and, you know, and even when I told you about not being able to relate to a father figure, God showed me even in that there was some redemption in that, because he said, I spared you from being raised by your father.
Oh, Lord.
I almost broke into a tongue, y'all.
Lord have mercy.
I spared you from being raised by your biological father because he was an addict for 20 plus years. And he said, I would not allow that to be. But the very things that you thought that you needed from a natural father, I did for you personally. That's why I went to Norfolk State on a full scholarship. Jesus paid my college tuition.
Lord have
That's
mercy.
why I went to law school the last 2 years on a full ride, because he paid my scholarship. He did it. I walked into my first job, thought I was networking, and the man hired me on the spot because he paid my way. I came to him to day one and got a raise day one walking in the door, while also getting bonuses from Bank of America still on their payroll, because they said that we didn't want to let you go off the payroll, so we'll keep you on the books. And you could, if you decided you don't like that job, you could come back to us. And so I was still getting bonuses from them while getting a raise day one over here, because that's the God that will set you up in a way that it will take somebody else 20 years to do, but he'll do it for you in a moment. And that's why, as Commonwealth Attorney, moving to Hampton in January and get sworn in June. That's the God we serve.
Yes, Lord.
Man, you better get to the church.
This is what the men need to see, though.
Yeah, man.
This is what men need to hear. And sometimes I would tell you all, as far as the worship is concerned, that was not my experience. And this is, and I believe that there's some guys out there that can identify. That wasn't my journey. I wasn't raised in a free worshiping environment.
Yeah.
In an Episcopal church, it's very regimented. It's you do the same thing every week.
Do y'all clap in the Episcopal church?
You better not.
Really?
Yeah,
you better not.
Very liturgical.
I can't remember times where I clapped. I can't remember times where I said amen or heard amen. You stood up and you sat down at different times in the service. It was very consistent. We had a book of common prayer. You went through the book, so it was more closely aligned to Catholicism,
lectionary,
than it was charismatic, right? And so for me now, to your point, I have grown in my freedom of worship, realizing God has been too good, that even what I saw, I got a break from that. Right, and I think that's a story that sometimes a lot of men need to hear. That whatever you saw,
wait, you done broke through now.
You got to break through that, right? And but sometimes it's hard for men to do that, right? Yeah. And so hopefully, hearing this and seeing this video, whatever, they can get the confidence to do that, because you do it everywhere else,
right?
Right. So why can't you do it in the house of God?
I think it's key to what Anton said. Sometimes God has to allow us to be put in crucible moments, to where we have to acknowledge and recognize, like that movie from the Boys in the Hood, you better kneel down and pray with me and recognize the strength. You have to recognize the strength of God. And sometimes for men, we're not just coming to the Lord because you tell us about him. We have to experience him, to know him for ourselves. And once we get to that place, now we get revealed to the different dimensions of who God is. And so you wouldn't know that he's a healer until you ever got sick.
Correct.
You wouldn't know he was a way maker until you ever got in a jam.
Correct.
So for men, sometimes it's better to allow them the process, where women may respond faster and quicker. Allow men to go through the process, because God will come for you. Because he loves you. Because he loves you.
Yes. Now that brings me to my I feel like I'm preaching. That's my third point of why. So the first one was men struggle with surrendering.
Yeah.
This one was looking at worship and making it fit. The third one is, I think men struggle with doing community well.
Isolation, yeah. We do isolation.
Okay. And here is, you mentioned earlier, it needs to be a problem sometimes. But the flip side to that is, when most men are confronted with an issue, we go into isolation. We go into a hole.
Yeah.
We don't feel comfortable sharing our stuff.
So when you said when it comes to a problem that they're dealing with,
Yes, a personal
their
issue.
personal issue. Yes, that is true.
Church ain't.
That
I'm
is
not
true.
going to church. I should go.
Because I ain't gonna tell my business to all these
I'm not gonna tell my
And
business.
that stuff ain't gonna be all
that is a true statement.
Because
That is
it
a
makes
true
me look
statement.
weak,
Yeah.
or
Yes.
I don't know how
Yes.
people gonna
Go
receive me,
Right.
how you gonna look at me.
Yes.
But
So-
a great part of that now, if we got to be honest, a great part of that
Do
is
it.
because in the church we gossip like crazy.
We do.
Everybody running their mouth.
Everybody running their mouth.
Do
and
it.
so because we know people gossip and we know everybody's business, why wouldn't we not think that you gonna tell my business?
Which is why then men go through their struggles in a hole.
in a
In a hole.
private place.
That's true.
We on an island, as
That's
I tell
true.
our brothers. And,
That's true.
and now I got all this stuff I'm dealing with. I got home issues. I got money issues. Maybe stuff I dealt with as a kid. I got all this stuff that I'm dealing with. And I ain't got no place
To lay it out.
and to talk to anybody about it. And this is where I think the church has done the greatest disservice
Yes.
to men.
Yeah.
Because if no other place, there should be a safe place in the church for men to just open up and admit, maybe I did get touched when I was a child. Maybe something did happen to me when I was young. Maybe I don't know how to be a husband. And there's no shame in admitting it. But in the streets, you ain't doing that.
No, you tell it all out in the streets.
We're not doing that.
Well, the reality is that unfortunately, like Ton is saying, the streets has a better code than the church sometimes.
Absolutely.
So they will hold stuff and keep
Absolutely.
stuff, and they'll go to their grave with it and ride or dies off real. In the church, we have too much of a gossip train that runs around, which is why I say this. You and I, we do this a lot all the time anyway. When we have meetings with men, what we say in this room, stay in this room.
That's right.
And if we hear about it, then we know who we coming to because we know who was here. So it's important to create that level of transparency and then also accountability so the men can have a place to be safe at to get stuff off of their chest. The other part of it is you cannot be afraid. I know I said this last week, but you can't be afraid to ask for help. And so sometimes, one of the greatest experiences I had over at CRC is with a man named Jack Rose. I just started making some money. I was a young minister on staff. I'm doing well. And then I saw his Jaguar. And I think I was 34, 33 years old. And I said, let me sit in it. And Jack Rose went off on me. He said, you ain't sitting in this car. He said, don't you even think about sitting in this car. He said, you don't even think about getting a car like this until you buy your wife. He said, tell me again how many kids you got. I said, I got 4. He said, you buy your wife a minivan and a house first. And then after you pay both of them off, then you think about getting a car like this. He spared my life in terms of me wasting money.
Yeah.
So sometimes the environment like that helps you when men see you about to do something crazy. They act like men and they tell you, no, you don't need to do that. You need to do this right here.
Yeah.
But we got to create that community and sacred safety is what I call it.
Yeah.
Sacred safety.
It gotta be a safe space.
But Tom, how did you get past that? Because you talk often about a lot of men in your life in the church that you grew up with or they helped you.
Right.
How did you get to the point where you could trust? Because I do think a lot of men want a mentor or somebody, but it's that trust piece, man.
Well, you know what? It took years, to be quite honest, because trust takes years to build. I mean, when you about to dig deep into some serious stuff, and then I think you said something earlier about crisis. When a crisis hits you, or you'll talk to somebody.
Yeah. You may. Now, I don't know, Tom, because some people going to
you're going to talk to somebody.
You gonna talk to somebody.
You may not
He
talk
right
to
about
somebody
that.
in the church.
He right about
but
that.
you're going to talk to somebody.
Right.
You gonna see
and
somebody.
So you're going to say something to somebody. Yeah, you're going to say something to somebody. And so I was going through some spiritual things, and it was Jack Rose. And he was the one that I talked to because I used to watch him. And I just, again, I'm an observer. I watch people. I watch you walk before I kind of approach you or say much. He and I have, talk, maybe surface stuff.
Yeah.
But it was him. And I went to him and shared some stuff. Man, it was the best talk I had. Just sharing, things that I was dealing with, some challenges. And because of that, actually, he is like a grandfather to my son. My son calls him Papa. And he literally is like my dad. It's stupid how God, puts people together. It's crazy. And so, and that was a relationship that was fortunate. And the funny part is, Mom Val, his wife, was like that to Don. And that was part of how funny we came together because she knew that Don had seen me or had an interest in me. And when I mentioned it to them, they were like, okay. Because they already knew. So God just has a weird way of putting relationships together. But it was crisis for me.
I think that's what he's saying is key to men, relationships. God has a way of putting relationships together. So men need relationships with other men, like I'm saying before, that can provide the counsel, be the safe space, and also provide the wisdom, but also the correction.
Yeah, because that joker would dig in me in a heartbeat. Can I just tell you? Because, I'm rough. So, I mean, how he described
that's it. Ain't that him?
Yeah, that's him. So I'm rough. So I can't be around no weak man. Because a weak man, I eat him up.
Right.
So it got to be somebody that is hardcore more than I am.
Right.
And he's more hardcore. Him, Elder Clayton. Yeah, Clayton.
Clayton is.
And they all my mentors were military men.
Clayton didn't say some choice words to me.
Career military men. And so they were like old school rough. Yeah. And so, but I gravitated towards that, not necessarily because they were military or whatever. I didn't discover that till later, but I gravitated towards really, really tough dudes because I knew I couldn't be around someone that I considered to be on the weak side because my personality wouldn't help me. It would do me no good.
So then how do we, because we got to land this plane, man. This show today is so good. How do we create or foster an environment in church where men will gravitate? They want to be a part of it. They come to stuff. They are engaged. I mean, I spend a lot of time, I know, Ray, you probably do too, I know that women naturally do this, right? Because ain't nothing for the sisters when somebody going through something. They're going to meet. They're going to get a bottle of wine.
Yeah, we get together.
They're going to sit around and they're going to have conversation, right? That ain't what we do.
No, we don't do that.
So then how do we, what do we create at the church where it is something that a brother would say, man, if I'm going through, man, at least the church would be one of the places where, like you said, I'm going to talk to somebody.
I think it's
it got to be the.
I think we have to be very strategic in the men's fellowships that we have. Schedule them, whether it's quarterly or bi-monthly, to ensure that the men are there. When we get there, that's when, for you and I, because we're in lead roles, transparency has got to hit the floor first. So we have to be the first ones to start to open up and to talk and to share. And I mean within reason, because I just said this today, that I don't think the church has graduated to a place where they can handle the pastor's frailties. That's a whole other show. That's a whole other show.
100%.
That's a whole other show that we can have that conversation. We haven't graduated to that point yet.
Yes.
But we have to be able to have a level of transparency and then come to the accountability to say, what we do here stays here. And then that has to walk through a process of where it's proven to be true so that stuff doesn't get out. You got to go through some cycles of that.
Can I go deeper? What I would also suggest, and I saw them doing it at Calvary, they would talk to those who were younger, like 40 and under. They would talk to them and say, you need to find you a mentor in the church, in a local assembly. Find you someone who you can build a relationship with, that you can actually, and they will encourage that type of relationship. They will encourage the older saints to find a mentee. You should be mentoring at least one person intimately, and it will encourage that, because what it does is, if you start building a relationship, initially it will be surface. But as they watch you and as they see that they can truly trust you with their frailties, with their pain, with their trauma, with their mistakes, they will open up more. And the more they open up with you and you respond the way God wants you to respond, that's when you start to get the real person, the real meat, the real issues that don't everybody else know.
Yeah.
That's when you start getting that stuff, and they'll tell you stuff, and you be like, wow, they shared that. Yeah, they shared that because you're a safe place. And if you're a safe place, and I know that you're not going to judge me,
Yeah,
you're going to pray for me, you're going to correct me, but also you're going to keep my confidence because you're going to cover me.
Key word, cover me.
You're going to cover me. Not that. Notice I didn't say I'm going to allow you to continue with your foolishness.
Give you an excuse
and give you an excuse for your foolishness. No, I'm going to cover you in a sense of there's a safe place while you heal. There's going to be a covering where the wolves can't get to you.
Yeah.
Because there's wolves in the church.
Yes.
And we have to be mindful and smart enough to know that there's wolves in the church.
You done went there now.
And so you cover them as they heal. And you pray for them as they heal, and you don't abuse them.
Right.
It's a whole lot of men you can't talk to about stuff you got going at home because they'll go right after, and women too.
Yeah.
They'll go right after your husband, right after your wife, and then misabuse your stuff.
So you don't abuse them because I think I would be afraid to abuse someone that God has placed in my care as a mentee because I would be afraid of the wrath of God.
Fear God.
The wrath.
But
the wrath of God.
That's a whole nother show. Because there are a lot of people don't fear God.
A lot of that
like
stuff would stop if jokers like Ananias and Sapphira
Come
started
on,
dropping
man,
dead right on the floor.
Yes. Yeah. That ain't
talking now.
Or you had prophets like Samuel and said, "Where is her?
Yeah.
Can I hear the bleeping of sheep in my ear?" And that's my favorite. That's my favorite. Because that joker said, "Give me your sword."
Right.
And
Yes, he did. Yeah, he did.
Sheesh.
That's
A
why
lot of this stuff will be over with
That is Old Testament
if we
time.
have some quick
That's why I
rap.
like Old Testament.
Yeah,
Samuel didn't play.
Because you like law. That's
I
what
like
you
law.
do. That's what you do in your day job.
Ain't no love and grace.
Ain't
Ain't no love and grace.
You go talk to somebody else over there about love and grace.
Yeah, it look right real quick, man. I just know, man, that you're right. So the safe space, let me speak to that real quick, because at our church we've done them, and men have opened up tremendously. It's just my heart's desire that on a Sunday I want to, and we do have good numbers of men, but I would love to see on a Sunday more men than women.
Absolutely,
just one Sunday. And I know when you look at the roles and stuff, yes, it's always skewed to women. We know we do our analytics on our social media posts. When you look at the demographics, it's predominantly women. But there's got to be a place and a space for the brothers where they can come and feel like, and I just hope that men would accept it. It's just you just don't see it, man.
We got to talk men's issues also, and I think sometimes we can be guilty of catering to women in the delivery of our messages because men don't. Now Pentecostal men do, charismatic men do, but sometimes we have to appeal to logic and reason and stuff that makes sense in our delivery of our messages, so that dude, when he go home, he feel like I learned something today. This works.
You are so on point. Darius Daniels.
Yeah, that's my dude right there.
He did a series called Manology. And I've been watching him. I mean, I was watching him before that, but I fell in love with his ministry after that because he said, I know I'm called to men, to mentor men and to minister to men. And so when you look at his church, you can see there are quite a number of men in that church. And I think, as Ray was saying, we have to be strategic in how we minister to men, because I think men attract men.
Yeah, I do.
Yep. I really believe when men see that men, because that was one of the things that attracted me to Calvary. When I went in there and I saw the men, and won't number men ushers, and men on the praise team.
Talk right there.
Yeah, and they were men. They weren't just men. They were men. And I was like, wow. I was like, okay. I said, there's something about this church that attracts men.
Yeah.
Let me see what it is.
Yeah.
And then when I stuck around and I saw what, I said, okay, I see why.
Yeah.
And that was it. That's all she wrote.
Yeah. It's been good today. We got to bounce. Want to thank everybody for listening, watching, checking us out. Leave your comment, Facebook and YouTube. Let us know your thoughts on the show. Until next time, be blessed and be a blessing to someone else. This is The Crew. Peace.
Okay, I hope you loved it as much as we did. Thank you for joining us for another fire show for the crew. Listen, you can catch us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and any streaming platform that you're using for your podcast. Share with a friend, expand the family. Listen, we're trying to do this thing with all of you as often as we possibly can. We're looking forward to you joining us again for our next show.